Hello, and in this video we're going to go over a really simple example of how to implement a progress indicator in your macOS 10 application. So this is really important. We've all seen progress indicators when we have some long-running operation that we're doing. They help you to see that how long an operation is going to take, at least pictorially, and to have some idea whether or not your app has frozen up. Now, NS Progress Indicator, which is the class we use to implement this, is actually really simple. Every time another part of the task is executed, all we need to do is update a property on the progress indicator and tell it how much of the progress is done, and then it'll show that update to the user immediately. So it's actually a really simple class. There aren't many tutorials on this because it's quite a complicated concept when you get into multi-threading, which is difficult to avoid on a lot of long-running operations. What multi-threading is the ability to put different tasks on different queues, as it's called, or different threads, to basically say, okay, these tasks are in the foreground and these tasks are running in the background, so your app stays nice and responsive. Because those two things are often conflated together, because when we've got long-running tasks, we might want to put them in the background, and those things are often conflated with progress. Now, we're going to talk about those things in the future, but for this first video, to get our hands on what progress is in and of itself, we're going to do a slightly different method. Fortunately, lots of Cocoa classes are what's called key value observable for progress. That means they send us a notification when more progress is achieved, telling us what the current progress of that object is. So we can, at its simplest level, if we have a progress bar, we can hook into receiving those notifications, and then whenever we get those notifications, we can show update the progress. So that's what we're going to show how to do today, as a stepping stone for showing the more kind of practical custom progress approach. So if we look at my screen here, we see I've just got an empty web viewer, and I can hit load page here, and we load up Facebook, but as it was loading, we didn't have any progress on how it was doing. So let's go ahead and add that. So there are several kind of things we need to do here. The first thing you need to do is have a progress bar in our view in which to display our progress. Well, that's very easy, and I've already done this, but I just drug a determinate progress bar in determinants when we don't know how long it's going to take, but we just want to show some movement, and determinants when we do know. You always want to use determinant if there's any way you can calculate whether you know or not. So that's in there. Let's start now implementing this. As you notice, we have IP outlets to both our browser view, which, like I said, is key value observable for knowing how much of its progress it's done. So we need to be able to hook into that, and then we've got our progress indicator, which we need to hook to that because that's the value of which we need to be able to update. So let's think about what we need to do. First, we need to tell the controller that we want to hook into those notifications, so that when we get one of those notifications, we can hook into the progress bar. So how are we going to do that? Well, because we want those notifications early, we're going to do it early in the view life cycle. So I'm going to do it in await from nib, which is a method called very early. I'm going to call a method on the view object itself. Just saying, I want to add an observer in this view, and I want the observer to be myself. And then I have this for key path. Now, for key path is a weird non-Swift like thing, but it's basically a string telling me how to get to the property that I want to observe, we can't just type in what property we want, browser view dot estimated progress, because then how does the compiler know to put the kind of property there rather than the value of it? So we need to do it as a string. So to do that, we're just going to say browser view dot estimated progress. Now, how did I know that it was called estimated progress? Well, if we you don't know really. If we look in the Apple documentation, we see that for the estimated progress bar on WebKit view, it says is key valuable observable compliant for this property. So you just have to look in the documentation and see what values are. So another important thing is it says this value ranges from 0 to 1. So the top value it's ever going to get to is 1. But if we look at our progress bar right now, by default it says that the maximum value of our progress bar is 100. So if we think about the scale here, if the maximum number it's ever going to get it to is 1, but the progress bar's maximum is 100, the progress bar is never going to get filled, even when it is fully finished. So to do that, we're just going to rescale the progress bar and say the maximum is 1, so that the progress values that we're getting are in kind of the same scale as the values of the progress bar. So that's kind of the first thing you need to do. But then now that we know that we've got a key that we can use, we need to carry on implementing this method because we're not done yet. The next parameter is some options for the key value observing, and that's what type of notifications do we want to get. Well, we want to get this as an enum, and we want to get notifications every time there's a new value for progress. So I'm just going to say .new, and then the next parameter is for if we want to have multiple observers in the same object, how are we going to distinguish between them? Well, we can use a context. I don't need one here, so I'm just going to say nil. Now we've registered for that outcome. One thing you always want to do when you register for an object, because this kind of notification system is global object. If a user stops viewing the window, and so they could no longer be seeing the progress bar anyway, you don't want to still be being notified about changes to this object. So while we're thinking about it, we're going to implement when we remove this observer. So where's a sensible place to remove it? Well, when we know the view is going to disappear, there'll be no point showing the progress bar anymore. So I'm going to implement view will disappear, and we're going to copy this. And this time, instead of saying that we want to add an observer, we're going to say remove observer. That's the kind of thing that's easy to forget when you first start doing this. So whenever you add an observer, it's always a good idea to remove one. This doesn't need as many arguments because it already knows some of this stuff. For example, it doesn't need to know the options or the context, so we're going to get rid of those. So we've taken care of adding and removing our observer, and so now for the fun bit, how do we actually do the last bit here? Get all those notifications and react to them by updating our progress bar. Well, we said we want to observe it inside of itself here. So this view controller class that we're in now will get our notifications. So to get to them, we need to be in a class that is a derivative of NS object, and a view controller is a derivative of NS object, and because this is a view controller class, we'll be able to use it here. So the method we need to use is observe value for key path. So it's going to pass us a key path as a string, and then it's going to pass us a dictionary of types, changes, and values of those changes. And now notice the values are any, but the value that we need the progress bar to be in is a double, because it's a double value that the progress bar takes. So we're going to need to convert those values to doubles. Now, why is it observe value? Well, remember I said that lots of things in Cocoa use this method of displaying notifications. So this could be anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be double. So we need to get it and then see what it is and then convert it to the right type. So we could be receiving notifications from lots of different key paths. So first thing we need to do is check the key path. So I'm just going to say if key path is exactly equal to browser view dot estimated progress, then we know we can we know we've got a notification of this type, so we can go ahead and update our progress bar. So I want to say something like progress dot double value equals new progress. And at its core, really, that's as complicated as it gets. All we need to do is find every time there's the progress gets updated, no matter how you're using it, we just need to respond to it and update that double value. But how do we find what that new progress is? Well, in this case, because we're using key value observing, it's given to us. So I'm just going to say that I'm going to guard let new progress equal this dictionary of changes that was passed to us, so the new values, and that might be optional, so I'm going to put a question mark there. And then what I want out of it is the new value that you've just received each time you get this notification, and that's called new key. And then that is a value at any. Well, that won't go into the progress bar. So what do we need to do? Well, we need to see if we can convert it to a double, which we should be able to, because by looking at the documentation, we know that the WebKit views estimated progress, which is what we're looking into. We know that outputs a double. So if we're going to try and do that, and if we can't do that, we're going to say else return. Now, what is this? This is a really powerful feature of Swift. That's, instead of saying if all the time, we can say we need this value to be equal to something to be able to do anything. This has no meaning if we can't do anything. So it says if you can't do this bit, don't bother trying to continue at all, because all the things we need to do after that are contingent on this. So if you can't make this equal to this, just return out with a function. So that's what that's about. Anyway, if we run now, we should get those notifications and be updating that progress bar. So if I hit load page, see what happened there. Each time it was getting out a notification, it was going to the progress bar and updating the progress. So that was a simple example of how to use NS progress in the kind of the simplest way possible with a pre-canned progress that outputs gives us progress values through key value observing. In the next video, we're going to look at how to implement a more custom progress for a custom task. Anyway guys, thanks for watching this video. Hope it was helpful, and subscribe if you liked it. Thanks for watching.